Let me guess, you've worked hard to lose weight before. You cleaned up your diet, maybe cut out carbs, and you pushed yourself through extra cardio. And at first, the scale went down, but then something happened. Progress slowed down, you got burnt out, and maybe even worse, you gained the weight back. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Most people struggle with fat loss not because they're lazy or unmotivated, but because they don't have the right plan or system, and so they get burnt out when things don't go their way. That's why in today's video, I'm breaking down the truth behind fat loss. I'm gonna go over the biggest misconceptions, why most diets fail, and what actually works if your goal is to lose fat rather than just weight. First, let's go over some common misconceptions. Misconception number one is cardio is the main way to burn fat. Many people think that fat loss comes from burning calories on the treadmill, and that the more cardio you do, the more fat you'll lose. But there are two big problems with this approach. First, you shouldn't try to burn off what you eat through strenuous workouts like this, because you'll most likely burn yourself out and eat the calories you burned off right after anyway. For example, 30 minutes of running is about 300 calories burned, and that's the equivalent of one Snickers bar. So for those of you who justify eating a cookie or a candy bar after a workout, if it was all just for burning calories, you kind of canceled out everything you just did. Your TDEE, total daily energy expenditure, is made up of all the different ways your body burns calories throughout the day. And exercise is actually the smallest part. So focusing too much time here really isn't the best place to invest your effort to achieve your fat loss goals. Second reason is often people think that cardio is directly pulling from fat stores. But as I hinted toward earlier, if you're not eating in a deficit, you can do all the cardio you want, but won't lose any fat. On the flip side, let's say you are eating in a deficit, but you're not eating enough protein. Now your body doesn't have the resources it needs to preserve its lean muscle mass, and on top of that, you're adding excessive amounts of cardio into the mix, which definitely will not help the situation. And that's the real danger. You could be losing weight, but not necessarily the weight you want. If you're still the same body fat percentage, but just at a lower weight, you'll still look overweight, or you'll look skinny fat. So how do you keep your muscle intact while losing weight? That's exactly what I'll go over later in the video. So does this mean that you should avoid cardio at all costs and that it's bad for fat loss? No. It should be used as a tool for heart health, endurance, and some added calorie burn, but understand that it shouldn't be your primary method for fat loss. And you need to make sure you're taking the right approach so that this cardio does not work against you. Second misconception is carbs make you fat. Often carbs are demonized because of insulin. The myth goes, carbs spike insulin, insulin stores fat, which means carbs equals fat gain. But let's just keep this simple, because what actually makes you fat is eating more calories than you burn over time, whether that comes from carbs or not. Carbs are not inherently fattening. Insulin helps shuttle glucose into the cells for energy and as glycogen in the liver and skeletal muscle. And only when there is a surplus will insulin store the extra glucose as fat. The Diet Fits trial compared low carb versus low fat diets for over 600 people for 12 months. And the results showed that they both lost similar amounts of fat when calories and protein were controlled. So instead of cutting out carbs completely, think about the quality and the amount you are eating. Try to get most of your carbs from whole foods. This is because whole foods are usually high in fiber, which is good for your health and making you feel full and satisfied. Whole foods are also high in other nutrients your body needs to function optimally. The problem with processed foods is that they're very calorie dense and they lack nutrients. They're designed to make you crave more, making you more susceptible to overeat. It's the fact that you ate in a calorie surplus, not because it's high in carbs or processed, that you would gain weight. Overeating with any other macronutrient or food would do the same. For the sake of proving this point, let's look at Mark Hubb, a professor of human nutrition at Kansas State University. He wanted to test whether weight loss came down to what you eat or how much you eat, and so he put himself on what's called the Twinkie diet. For 10 weeks, he ate mostly convenience store junk food. It was like Oreos, Twinkies, Little Debbie's, chips, and shakes, all those types of foods. And despite the poor food quality, because he kept his calories in a deficit, he lost 27 pounds in just 2 months. Now, does this mean you can eat all the junk food you want? No, because like I said before, it's very hard to stay in a calorie deficit when your food is low in nutrients and it's not very filling. The real lesson is that fat loss comes down to energy balance, but health and sustainability come from the quality of foods you choose. Misconception number 3, weight loss equals fat loss. The scale does not tell the full story. You can lose 5 pounds from water and glycogen or even muscle and still not be leaner. That's why people who cut out carbs get stoked in the beginning, because they think they lost 10 pounds of fat in the first few weeks. But in reality, that was just a loss of glycogen stores from the lack of carbs in your diet, not actual fat. On the flip side, you can hold steady on the scale while burning fat and building muscle, and still look significantly leaner even though you're still around the same body weight. That's why body composition, not just body weight, matters, and why tracking with progress photos, strength in the gym, or waist measurements is more reliable. Now let's get into why most diets fail. One of the biggest reasons why diets fail is because they're too restrictive. Think about most fad diets. No carbs, no processed food, only eat meat, and the list goes on. Sure, these can work short term, but almost nobody sustains them. When you cut out whole categories of food, 3 things usually happen. You get stronger cravings, you set yourself up for binge cycles, and you risk nutrient deficiencies like what we see with the carnivore diet, where people often lack fiber and certain vitamins. Ultimately, you can't think of this as a quick fix. There's no cheat code, there's no hacks. It just comes down to adherence over months and years. So instead of banning foods altogether, just think about moderation and sustainability. So a flexible approach like the 80-20 rule, where 80% of your diet consists of healthy whole foods, while the other 20 allow a little bit more leeway for processed junk food, help balance the physical health and mental side of dieting. Because if your diet makes you miserable, it's just not gonna last. And that's why so many people regain weight. Another reason why diets fail is because of metabolic adaptation. When you've been in a calorie deficit for a while, your body fights back. Your metabolism slows down because you're gonna be unconsciously moving less, you're eating less food, so there's less calories burned during digestion, and overall your maintenance caloric intake will go down because you just weigh less. So your body requires less calories in order to keep itself alive. Now, people sometimes get it twisted and think that they've broken their metabolism, but really it's just the body adjusting to a lower energy intake. The solution isn't to starve yourself harder. It's to use strategies like resistance training to preserve muscle, keep protein high, and sometimes cycle through calorie intake to give your metabolism less of a reason to downshift. And if you're tired of bouncing between quick fixes and want real structure, that's exactly what my coaching is built around. When you work with me, you're not just getting a workout plan, you're getting a complete, well-rounded strategy. I help you dial in your training so you're building lean muscle and not just burning calories. I show you how to hit the right nutrition targets with a diet that's sustainable for you, and I hold you accountable so those habits actually stick. It's the kind of approach that saves you months, even years of trial and error, because everything is custom to you. Your goals, your schedule, your experience level, and so on. If that's something you're ready for, there's a link in my bio where you can learn more and see if my online coaching is the right fit for you. So now that we've talked about why diets fail, let's get into what actually works. And the first one being prioritizing protein. Protein isn't just for bodybuilders. It's essential for anyone trying to lose fat. If you're eating in a calorie deficit, but not eating enough protein, you're not just losing fat, you're losing muscle too. Protein protects muscle, but on top of that, it's the most filling macronutrient. So it keeps you satisfied for longer and makes you less likely to overeat. And looking into the thermic effect of food, protein burns the most amount of calories during digestion compared to carbs or fats. And a good approach is to spread your protein intake throughout the day so that you feel satisfied and full and less likely to build up cravings by the end of the night. The second piece is resistance training. Cardio definitely has its place, but if your main goal is fat loss, endless cardio will not get you there. The reason being that resistance training changes your body in a way that cardio can. It builds and preserves muscle mass, which is crucial because when you're losing weight, you want that weight to come from fat, not muscle. And without lifting, you risk losing muscle. Now, a lot of people worry because they think that if they just touch a weight, they're gonna get bulky and big like a bodybuilder. But the truth is the opposite. Muscle is much denser than fat. So if you were to replace all of your fat with muscle, you would look noticeably leaner, tighter, and more defined. Also, for you ladies, women simply just don't have the hormonal environment to build large amounts of muscle like men do. And even for men, building a bodybuilder level physique requires years of training and very intentional dieting to match that muscle gain. For women, lifting weights is far more likely to result in a toned, athletic look rather than a bulky one, especially if your program is designed correctly to give you the right physique you're looking for. Click the link in the bio. I'll build your program. A study published in Obesity in 2017 showed that people who combined dieting with resistance training lost more muscle and preserved significantly more lean mass compared to those who just did cardio. That's why resistance training should always be the foundation if your goal is fat loss and body transformation. Cardio still plays an important role with heart health, endurance, and some extra calorie burn, but it works as a supplement, not the main event. That's why I always tell clients to first lift weights, then do cardio. Get that order right, and you'll not just lose weight, you will reshape your body in a way that cardio alone cannot. The third thing is creating a calorie deficit that actually works for you. There's no single perfect diet. Keto, paleo, intermittent fasting, flexible dieting, they can all work as long as they keep you in a sustainable deficit and hit all the different nutrition targets to keep your body healthy and functioning optimally. The key is finding something that you can actually stick to without starving yourself and cutting out all the foods you love. It's about managing portions, keeping protein high, and finding a system that keeps the foods that normally make you overeat in moderation. The fourth part is understanding NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. This is just the energy you burn throughout the day that isn't planned exercise. So out of the gym type of stuff, like walking, fidgeting, cleaning the house, taking the stairs. What most people don't realize is that NEAT can vary massively from person to person. According to research from James Levine, published in 1999, calories burned through NEAT can vary by hundreds, even up to 2,000 calories per day. That's a huge amount. So if your goal is fat loss, it's not just about what you do for an hour in the gym, it's about how much you move the other 23 hours of the day. Things like aiming for 8 to 10,000 steps a day, taking the stairs rather than the elevator, parking further away, standing during a phone call, are all little things that can really add up and help move the needle. And the last point I want to leave you with is this: it's consistency that matters, not perfection. Fat loss isn't about being perfect for 30 days, it's about being consistent for months. One bad meal or one missed workout will not ruin progress, but giving up altogether most definitely will. The people who see results aren't the ones who never mess up, they're the ones who stick with it and get back on track right after. That's what builds momentum and creates lasting change. Hey, if you found this video helpful, a subscribe from you would be greatly appreciated. It's free and it takes 2 seconds. I'll see you in the next video.